All right. Hello and welcome to the Swim Brief, SIgne Bro, or as she's known sometimes in auto-translated American swimming articles, SIgne Bridge. I just want to acknowledge off the top before you say anything, SIgne, there's two things that are going to be a little weird for me in recording this podcast. The first was I coached you when you were like 14, 15 years old. And now all of a sudden I blinked for a second and you're 22, right?
Yes.
So you're like an adult. So I'm going to try to make sure that I still talk to you like you're an adult and not like you're a 15-year-old girl, teenager. And the other thing is when we were, seeing each other every day, you hardly ever spoke English to me. And of course, we're going to record this podcast in English. Otherwise, it'd not be very popular in the United States. It'd be really tough to listen to. But how are you, SIgne?
I'm very good, thank you. Yeah, I'm very good. I think swimming is great, training is great. The weather right now is very good, so I can't complain.
Yeah. Yes, when the sun is shining in Denmark, it's the greatest country in the world, right, SIgne?
Can't complain, but I still do.
You still find a way.
I will.
Yeah, we'll have plenty to complain about over the course of this. One of the reasons I wanted to bring you on is because, of course, I continue to follow your swimming career. I tell people about you all the time because you're doing so well. When I coached you, you just sort of become a junior swimmer. You had a really great career as a junior swimmer in Denmark. And you've taken it up to the senior level where you're representing Denmark at international competitions. And just recently, last month, you achieved Denmark's Olympic qualifying standard. And so correct me if I'm wrong, it doesn't necessarily confirm that you're headed to Tokyo, right? There's still a chance because, for instance, the event that you made the time in, the 100 freestyle, Pernille Blume has made a time as well. So theoretically, if there's a third person that beats your time, you wouldn't go to Tokyo. But, it's looking likely that you've qualified for the meet. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that experience because you had punched a ticket to go a year ago. And I think, one of the things that any kind of swimming fan is looking at this year in which, people were getting ready for an Olympics and everything else has just been sort of postponed out a year. And I wanted to give people insight into what that's been like in the life of somebody who, devoted a lot of time and resources and work into qualifying and then basically found out like, well, you got to do it all over again. So if you could, I'm going to talk about maybe some of the stuff when you were younger too, but tell me a little bit, like take me back in time to, that moment pre-COVID when you've achieved an Olympic qualifying time and, you sort of feel like everything's laid out ahead of you. How are you feeling at that time?
Oh, it was actually, it was such a shock for me, actually. I think to really explain it, we have to go a bit further back, maybe Worlds 2019. Yeah. I had one of the worst experiences of my life. Oh. It was a very, psychologically messy competition for me. Okay. We had some problems with our coaches here at home.
Oh, this was like right after the NTC coaches had been let go.
Yes, exactly, okay. Exactly. So that was June, I'd say maybe May 2019.
Yeah.
And then we had to still get ready for Worlds, and it was, it was so messy. We didn't really know what to do. I didn't really even know if I wanted to swim because I was like, these coaches has worked with me for so long, and this was I'm very into the teamwork. So it was like my team was gonna go to South Korea and swim Worlds.
Yeah.
And then they couldn't go of course they weren't our coaches anymore. So I was actually in doubt whether I wanted to swim it because it just didn't really feel right in my heart to do it. Yeah. But of course I knew, I'm training for this and this is my sport and swimming is my thing. So of course I was going to swim because I can't, for me, I've been practicing for a whole year leading up to this. So of course I was going to race. So we went and I just wasn't at a good place mentally. I was very fit and I was ready to swim. But I wasn't there. And my parents were there too to support me. And that was a big help for me because then I felt like I had a piece of home with me because I was just not focused. I didn't sleep well. I didn't really eat well. And I was just I wasn't in tune with myself at all. So I had such a messy competition and I did it. I got over with it. I took a bit longer vacation afterwards. And then, because actually I didn't even know if I wanted to continue swimming because I was like, if swimming can give me this feeling in my stomach, I just don't know if it's worth it. And I think many people has had that feeling, or many swimmers or athletes has had that feeling.
Right.
At once in their career. I might get it as well some other time in the future, but I was just not sure.
Yeah.
I came back. We got new coaches. So my coach now is Jon Langberg, who used to coach at a Danish club and had a girl at the Olympics in 2016. So he's a very good coach, and I've known him since I was
since you can remember. Yeah.
Since I can remember. And he was very good in just letting me find my own way in swimming again. Yeah. So I've always been very hardworking, I'd say, in practice. So
you think so?
I really, sometimes. I still pull the lane line every time I swim backstroke.
I remember, yeah.
But I'd say I love the hard work. So practice was never an issue for me. So I came back to practice and I loved it. But at the first competition I had after Worlds 2019, my stomach was just like a small stone, like a knot. I just couldn't get the best out of myself. And I didn't really know what to do. And I was so confused. And then I decided to do ISL, which was a big experience for me, and my team made it to the finals. And I think just experiencing that kind of team energy was very good for me at that point because I felt very alone in swimming. Right. And we made it to the finals. It went well. I came back after, shortly after New Year, so in the beginning of 2020, I came back and I told my coach, I know I'm going to do this. I will make the cut. I know it. I just know it in my heart. Wow. I'm going to work for it. But I just knew it. Like I just set my mind to, I will do this no matter what it takes. Wow. And then, it was a big step for me actually, because I've had such a long, very gray period. I wasn't sad, because then honestly I wouldn't do it. If I was sad all the time, I wouldn't have done it. Yeah. But I was just not really there. I didn't feel like I was at peace with my swimming. Then we went on training camp. We went to Florida in January 2020, and then we went to a tier pro meet in Knoxville, which was actually my first pro meet, and I loved it. I had so much fun. And I did quite well. I mean,
was that your first meet in America? Like the meet in Knoxville?
Oh, well, I did the ISL.
Oh, so right. Those were. Yeah.
But I think actually my first like club meet or national meet it was, and it was fun because then all of a sudden I knew all these people from ISL, so I had a really good time there, and I was feeling almost at home, which was a nice feeling. ISL gave me good racing experience and team experience, but it gave me such a big group of people that I now know, which I love that. So then I did a 200 free, which was, it was like standard. But then I did it. Honestly, I probably didn't really want to swim it. And then I did a 50 free, and I think I did like 25 flat or something.
Yeah.
And then I heard myself say, okay, this was what I was doing when I was swimming a really good 100 free.
Yeah.
And then the day after it was 100 free, and I did 54.5. And then I went out of the water, and I was like, I know I will do it. I just know I'm going to do it. But I needed to take a big step, because I think sometimes I forget that, okay, I cannot do 54.5, but I still have to do 54.5 and faster to do the cut. So then we went to Antwerp, Belgium, in March for a meet. And Jon had been saying that he knew that I could do sub 54. And now I was like, well, how do you know that? It's me. I'm going to do it. How do you know?
Right.
And then I think, at this point, I really felt the pressure actually of the qualification that was coming up.
Right.
So I was very, very nervous for the 100 free final. It was very intense for me, but I tried to listen to some good music and to just calm down and try to have fun, right? Yeah. So I jumped in and I did 53.8, and I was so happy afterwards. And I swam beside Femke Heemskerk, which is she's a Dutch swimmer, and she's just
hopefully people have heard of her. She's very fast. Yes.
She's very good and very kind too.
Yeah.
And she's been my idol for so long. Like I really look up to her, how she's swimming, her technique, but also just her energy and her kindness. And so she's a very good person. So I was just very, very happy, and tears came to my eyes, and I was running down the pool deck, and I was just hugging everyone like, oh, I did it. So that was very, very emotional for me. And at that point, we didn't obviously, like, COVID wasn't really
it was sort of like something maybe you'd heard about, but it
was still like a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was still a joke.
Yeah. Hold on. Yeah. Before we go any further than that, like, you brought up so many things that I want to just touch on, like, before we go into the future, because there's a lot of gold to be mined in all the stuff you say. I want to come back all the way. I do want to talk about your parents, because I know both of them. I have to say, like, looking back, I'm really grateful for both of them, because it was like a really nice relationship to have. And I think that a lot of times coaches, they complain, like, they're like, oh man, these parents, they're giving me such a hard time. Your parents were awesome to have as parents. And I get the sense that they've been that way for you too, and you have an older sister, Sarah, who also competed internationally for Denmark. And of course, they were similarly involved with her. Could you try to explain to people who are listening to this, like, because I think, quite often with parents, maybe coaches, they just go like, well, we just don't want the parents involved, like, stay out of it. Right. But I think your parents struck a really good balance of, they were very involved without sort of, like, I never felt like they were telling me what to do coaching wise. They never can, your mother never came in and went, you need to, with SIgne and et cetera, et cetera. Like, they were it just felt like a really cooperative relationship. And then I could tell that they were really supportive of you. Just try to explain to some people listening, like, what your parents are like around swimming.
Well, for one, I want to say that, of course, I'm very grateful of their support, and how they have the resources to travel and to help me. And that's a big thing too. And I know that, and I'm very grateful that they choose to do that.
Right.
I think for it helped a lot that, as you said, I have an older sister. It helped a lot that they kind of knew what path I was going to go down, and what was, like, what was I gonna go through? How many times do you train? How does it feel when you start high school and all these parties go on and you want to do that? And what kind of advice do we give? What do we not say? So I think for my dad, he's definitely more like, I wouldn't say he's more involved, but he knows a lot more about swimming and times and other swimmers and about the competitions, and so he's more into the details,
right?
Which is a good balance off of my mom, which is just like very happy and just supportive, She has a shoulder I can cry on, and she's ready with a hug, and she's also very like my hype man, right? She's always there.
That's a perfect description of your mom. She is your hype man, or your hype woman, I guess.
Very, very loud at
God.
competitions. You can always hear her.
Yeah.
And she's like, do you hear me? And of course I can't hear her because my ears are filled with water. So she's like, I must scream higher than you, louder. You can't scream louder. I think one of my friends said once that she could hear her off of the live timing, on the computer. She could hear my mom scream.
Yeah.
And I said to my mom, you can't, don't go louder. It's fine.
I think I have some permanent hearing loss because I've watched a few of people. This is another thing that I have to explain to people in America is that like a lot of Danish swim meets, there's no stands for the parents to sit in. So the parents are literally like standing or sitting next to you as a coach. Yeah. So I definitely watched you and your sister swim some races sitting right next to your sister, which was kind of a lot of pressure for me as a coach too. Is like, just listening to your mom, who like somehow can get her entire body, I think, to vibrate and just produce this like loud sound out to the pool. Very impressive.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very impressive. But I think they just have a really good balance in between asking a lot of questions during my everyday training, so they kind of know where I'm at. So they'll know if I'm not at a really good place, and I strive to be honest with them. But sometimes, I can come home from a very big practice, and I'll be, oh, it's fine.
Right.
No, I don't want to talk. It's fine.
Yeah.
Or I'll come home and I'll be very happy. Yeah. So I tell them, and they kind of know. Otherwise, they'll see it, I think, in my face. But they have a really good balance in between supporting me, but also giving me advice and also helping me, with that with Worlds in 2019, saying that you really don't look very happy. And are you sure this is the right thing for you?
Yeah.
And that's a good way to be like, not saying we don't want you to do this. Also, if you're not happy, not saying that if you're not happy, you shouldn't do it. But if you're not happy, please think again. Or like ask some people around you in swimming. Is it normal? Can I be healthy in my sport feeling this way?
Right.
So it's a good way of saying that they've just always had my back, I think.
I've got a couple
and also
things.
they don't wanna be too controlling of me, and I think also they don't really want to say what they think I should do, but I know what they're thinking.
I think you got a couple things that I would highlight for anybody, like maybe that's a parent that's listening to this. I think two things came through there that I just want to point out. I think they do a really good job listening to you. And this is really hard as a parent because, I've got two kids and when my kids get upset, like instinctually as a parent, you want to fix it. You want to make it better. You want, my son starts crying. I want to make him feel better. And I think sometimes that like instinct, it prompts you into, like sort of going very aggressively at somebody else, like a coach or another parent, or even at your own kid. And it's always worth it as a parent to just like take a moment and have that moment where you just listen to what your kid's telling you about what's going on. And actually probably the most powerful thing you can do because I can hear it in the way that you describe it, is that they're listening, and you have this thought of like, oh, they know what's going on. Like that I don't have to, I don't have to start from scratch every time I explain to them what's going on with me, because they have this history. They've been listening to what's going on, and like they get it. They, at least at some level, they get what's going on. And then the second thing that I think is really powerful is, parents, they can observe and they just share what they're seeing. You know what I mean? Like, this is what I say to parents all the time who I think want to, like, they see something going on with their kids and they want to engage with the coach in it. Instead of like sort of giving instructions or trying to control a situation, just share what you're seeing. Just like, if you have a teenage kid and your kid's coming home seems miserable every day from practice, I would think it's a great idea to call up the coach and just say like, hey, look, here's what I'm seeing at home. SIgne looks down every time she comes home. Like, like, can we talk about this? Like, can we all of us sit down and have a meeting? In fact, I think I had that meeting at one point. And so, that stuff's really, really valuable, and it allows you to sort of like cooperate without making it sort of a confrontation between everybody. Okay, enough about your parents. We get to keep going on. The other thing that I'm really curious listening to about, because I have my little piece of history with you. I think one of the things that has gotten you to the level that you've gotten, which is Olympic swimmer, we hope 99%. Okay, I would do all the finger crossing, jinx, like nothing. Is, like I had an experience of, we went in 2015 to Azerbaijan, and I remember that the early part of that meet, you had a swim that was just terrible. Like, you swam a 400 free. I think you'd qualified for the meet with like a 419 and you went 430. And obviously you were like, what the hell? Like, I flew forever. I flew to Britain, and then I flew on like 8 hours here, and we've been here for 5 days, and now I'm going to swim like crap. Like, what the hell am I doing here? And then later in the meet, you had like the most amazing 200 free I'd ever seen you swim. So you've always had this ability to sort of bounce back, like, even from really, really disappointing swims. Like, it's like, what do you attribute that to? Like, what do you tell yourself when you, because I think a lot of people, like, they just have a bad swim and then they just go, this is miserable. Like, I can't bounce back from this. What kind of stuff, like, what's your process for bouncing back from disappointing swims?
Yeah, I think first of all, and actually most importantly, I allow myself to feel miserable.
Yeah.
But just for, usually I'd say until tomorrow, or like until when I go to sleep, I have to reset this, because I know that I can't wake up tomorrow and still be sad about this race. Then I can't do another good race.
Right.
And it's something that actually my sister told me not very long ago too, that I can sort of shift my energy, or like shift my focus, but it helps me now because I'm aware of it and I know that I can do it. That's always, that's helpful.
Yeah.
So first of all, I allow myself to feel bad, then I bounce, but then I'm very aware of what helps me. So for me, it's music, good music. I use music a lot. I use it. I don't remember a race when I haven't had my earphones or like my AirPods in my ears in the call room.
Yeah.
Because it takes my mind off of what's going on, but in a good way. And then I know what kind of music will pump me up. But I think a sports psychologist told me once that you can't be worried and sing along to a good song at the same time. Your mind can only focus on one thing. So if you choose to sing along, you can't worry at the same time.
Yeah.
Because I've been told, like count the tiles in the call room, and you can't think, and count or like tie your shoes or something. Like that's not working for me. Music is at least a good thing that I found that works for me. And then I think I just really use my coach a lot. Like I'm just very, very honest with my coach. Like I tell my current coach that now I'm nervous or I'm worried. Yeah. Or I'm not sure I can do this. Like I told my coach once I had to qualify for Europeans in 200 free, and I told him, I'm just not sure I can do it. And that was 45 minutes before I had to jump in for the final in 200 free. And that's not what you want your swimmer to say 45 minutes before they have to swim fast. But
maybe you would rather have them admit that than keep it a secret. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And then just try to deal with it all by themselves. Yeah.
Exactly. And then I also think usually, so at that time in Azerbaijan it was 400 free, and I was probably thinking like, okay, now I'm gonna have fun, or now I'm gonna do something that's a lot more fun, which is the 200 free. Right. And now sometimes I think, now I'm gonna do something that's a lot more fun, the 100 free. Or if I've had a bad 100 free, I'll do the 200 free, I'll do the 50 free. Actually, the 50 free, it never really impressed me. I can't, because I'm just not very good at it. So I use it more of a good opening speed kind of thing. I don't really care about that race, and it's been like my older coach used to tell me, you have to really get in the zone for the 50 free. But I just can't. I'll be the most annoying person in the call room because I can't focus. But I'm aware, and I try to leave people with their feelings. Yeah. So I think it's like now it's like kind of a rhythm that I have. So I allow myself to feel bad. I go to bed I'd say not happy, but like more of a neutral kind of feeling. Yeah. And then I'll just be very honest with my coach and be very like open and say, my warm-up did not feel very good. And then he'll say, well, luckily your warm-up is not your race. Right. Which is true. So you can, warm-up rarely feels very good for me. So, but I know that has nothing to do with my race. It's to warm me up. And I'll do some things and hopefully it feels fine. But it's not necessarily how my race is going to feel. Yeah. So I think I use my coach a lot.
So I think actually what I hear there too, and I'm sorry for everybody listening, like there's just too much good stuff that I just want, like, because part of this is I'm coaching at a place now, and like people that I coach here, they're going to listen to this, and I actually want them to get some of these points. I think, it's really good that you're honest with your coach, but then I hear on the other end, you're able to like listen to honest, like you're able to take honest feedback back. You know what I mean? Like, so, cause I think it's one thing to say to your coach, like, I'm really nervous, but then you have to be able to receive like, well, good thing. It's just your warm up, it's not your race. Like and then if you block that, then you don't have the full, you don't have the full picture of what's going on. You've expressed what's going on, but you haven't let somebody else sort of express something back to you. Okay, so let's get closer to the future here. So take us back. Like, when did you find out, oops, there's going to be no Olympics? And how did you feel in that moment?
Well, we had Europeans before the Olympics. So we have Europeans in May. Yeah. And we still do this year. But so I think the 11th of March 2020 was when Denmark shut down. Yeah. I was laughing, but not for too long. Right. It was not fun the day afterwards. We went to a meeting. Our national team had a meeting, which was like, we'll keep you updated. We don't know much yet, and let's see. And then we got this great offer to swim at a private pool, at a university pool here in Copenhagen. Okay. So I think I was actually almost only out of the water for less than 2 weeks. I'll say 10 days. which is a short time.
Yeah.
And at that time, they found a way to have a gym open too, but with restrictions, of course.
Right.
So then we were training just lightly, I think once a day, just for all the like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all the weekdays, and then weekends off, just to stay active also, because at this point the Olympics weren't postponed, and also Europeans wasn't postponed. Then I think actually it was, for me, it felt quite late that the Europeans were postponed, because I had this feeling, of course, that I wanted to stay ready to race. Sure. But also I had to stay ready in a society that was so off, and of course all my friends and teammates and family were just really confused, as we all were.
Yeah.
So I kind of went into this like 200% focus mode, which was not very healthy, I found out. But so I was really strict on my diet, and I was really strict on my training, and I was really strict on what I did. So I was just very, very tough on myself in a time where you could actually, where it didn't really matter. But also after Europeans were postponed, I stayed this way. I stayed very, very strict on myself. And then shortly after the Olympics were postponed, but I didn't really, at first it didn't really affect me. I was kind of in a place in between, like training normally, also race mode. I was just really all over the place.
Well, I imagine when you say like you got into that 200% super focus mode, and I think a lot of people, like, that's actually very relatable to people in the pandemic. Like, a lot of people, like, experienced this total lack of control over the situation, and they went like, okay, well, I'm going to control what I can control, and I'm going to be like the absolute best version of myself, and do all these things.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like, and it's also hard to shift away from that, right?
Exactly. And make sure that if they say I'm going to race tomorrow, I'll be ready.
Right.
But it was, of course, and it's a reaction too. And it's the first reaction I had that was be extra focused.
Right.
And it's a tough one. It was very draining for me. And I only snapped out of it, I think June, when I told and it was June or July, and it was 2 weeks before we got off, 3 weeks off for summer. And I told my coach, I was like, I'm not sure I can come to practice anymore. I wake up and the last thing I want to do is get in the water. And at this point we've been training from March up until then, which was, let's say, just mid-June, for nothing. And that's a really odd situation for us swimmers, that we always know what's the next goal, what's my next thing I want to achieve. Always it's these like, what's your goal, what's your long-term goal, what's your short-term goal. That's such a thing to be focused on.
Yeah.
And then he said, well, let's fix it then. Do you want to go off now? We can come back earlier than the rest of the team, but you seem like you've had enough.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, give me a week. I'll just train once a day. It didn't really matter at that time. It was just practice to practice.
Right.
And then I think I had a week which it was a bit better, and then we were off for some vacation, but it was a mix between, okay, so I've been working for this for 4 years. And now it's been just taken away from me. And the feeling of, okay, however hard or tough this season have been, we're just going to repeat it. Like, next year is going to be exactly the same. I'm going to come back from vacation. I'll use 6 months to get in top shape. At Christmas, I'll be in good shape. Then we have 2 months of just, like maniac training, then I'll do a competition, then I might qualify then. It was so like, let's do the exact same as we've just done. Let's do it again. It felt so repetitive for me.
Yeah.
So it was good for me to have some time off. Obviously, when you get 3 weeks off and you come back, it's like, okay, well, I'm fine. Of course we're gonna do it. But it was mostly what was the feeling that I had the most was that it's gonna be weird to just repeat this year.
Did you do anything to like change? Like, I mean, did you do anything to make it not repetitive?
Well, well, I did the ISL.
Yeah,
again, which
you went
was
in the bubble.
I went in the 6-week bubble, and that was something.
In Hungary.
In Budapest. But that was an experience, and that, of course, actually the first couple of months leading up to Budapest, those were annoying to me again. It was sort of just long 2 months, and then I came there. We did some competition. I've never really been much of a short course swimmer, so I do feel a bit out of like, I do feel like I have to be the best in something that's not my best thing.
Right.
Like, we could do this competition in a long course and I'll be flying, but right now I have to try so hard to make all my turns good, make all my underwaters. It's just not really my strongest side. But it was good for me. And then I came back from Budapest and I did amazing times in our nationals. Yeah. And it was very, very good for me. And then I had that same feeling as I explained I had January of 20. I was like, I'm just going to do this. And I just know. And then and the thing to remember is that I really like training. So I'm very, like, I'd say I'm very tough on myself in training.
Mm-hmm. I can agree with that.
I just really know what I need to do to get to where I want to be.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing that's a very clear thing I have.
No, I can actually remember that even from the age, like, when you were 14, 15 years old, like, you pushed me as a coach. Like, there were days where at the end of it, you would say to me, like, Chris, that wasn't hard enough. Like, we need to do something harder. And, that's a tough ego blow as a coach when your swimmer's telling you that. But that's all right. It was good. And we came back the next day and made it harder. And some days you did say, oh, this is too hard. Oh, I don't want to do this, just like everybody else. But I think you're always somebody that has, like, I was never in doubt about whether you were going to come to practice and never in doubt about whether you were going to come and work hard when you were there. Like, that was just a given, that you were going to do those two things. And I think probably has done a lot to get you to that level. Do you think, like, when you were younger, as a lot of people that are listening to this, like, for instance, on our team are younger people, did you ever have that feeling like, oh, I'm going to do this? Or is that something that's come to you, just in the last couple of years? Because I know, like, people deal with nerves around meets. Like, what was the first time you felt like you showed up to a meet and was like, I'm going to do well. Like, I got this.
It's not a long time ago. I've actually, and maybe you remember, I've always had a lot of nerves. Like, I was very nervous, and I think even when you coached me, I liked practice better than I liked the meets.
For sure.
And that's been, like, if I remember when I look back on my junior and my age group years, that's the very clear thing for me. I always liked practice better than I liked the meets because I got so nervous.
Yeah.
And at that time I was doing the longer, I was actually, I think, 800, 400, 200 I did. Now, I'd not do the 400 free. I'll never do the 400 free. I hate the 400 free.
Now we've gotten to the most important part of the podcast, the part where I get to say, I told you so. because I remember having a conversation with you where I said, SIgne, why don't you just drop the 800? You don't like swimming it. You don't like training for it. Like, just swim the 100 and 200 free. And you fought back so hard. You were like, no, I have to swim the 800 free. I got to swim the 800 free. It's so important. Exactly. And I was right, SIgne.
You were right. And I think what was my, because I'm easily influenced by what people around me tell me.
Yeah.
And that's also something that I've learned to be very honest with my coach about. So right now I'll say that I don't like racing in Denmark as much as I like swimming internationally, because I feel like sometimes Danish coaches will comment on my races or will comment on how my technique looks or something. And I don't always feel strong enough in myself to answer or to feel confident enough in my own swimming or races or race plan to fight back.
Right.
And that time I think people kept telling me, oh, you could be so amazing in the longer freestyle races, 400, 800. You could do an amazing 800 free. If you already are able to do that, and I was like, maybe, but I hate it.
Maybe they're right. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they're right. And that's still something and I think sometimes now I get the comment like, oh, you're still racing the 200 free. And I never stopped racing the 200 free. I've just gotten a lot better in my 100 free because I think it's a lot more fun. And when I'm at the days when I feel like 200 free is fun, then I'll do a good 200 free, but I never stopped racing it. I've always done it. And I'm right now the fastest by far in Denmark to do it. And I still get comments from Danish coaches telling me, you're still there. When are you doing only the 50 free? And I'm never going to. So stop.
Yeah. Leave her alone, Danish coaches.
Leave me alone. But it's like, I think sometimes, and that's also a thing I've been working on, being very mindful of commenting on other people's races and stuff like that, because this is my craft and I work on perfecting it. And when you tell me stuff like that, you're gonna confuse me in my process to getting to be the best swimmer that I can possibly be. Yeah. And it's not a helpful thing. It's more of a it could be said in a fun tone, I don't know, but it's more of a uplift me then, because say oh, you're so close to getting the national record, which I am, but no one is so it's stuff like that. And that was just something off the line of what you were asking me.
I mean, do you think this is another example? Again, just something that I noticed. I always had this experience of being a Danish person, but not a Danish person. I've always sort of had one foot in America. I'm not an American, kind of a Danish person. And when I'm in Denmark, I'm kind of not a Danish person. I'm an American. So, I've always felt like a stranger everywhere. And the advantage of that is I think it allows me a little bit of distance to observe. But I just remember too, when I was there coaching and, during that time, Rikke Møller Petersen, or for Americans, Ricky Moeller Peterson. I don't know how to say these names. Anyway, she was the best 200 breaststroker in the world, but everybody in the whole country felt like they could provide commentary on what she should be doing, or, oh, her pullouts are terrible. If only she could learn to do a pullout. And do you think that's sort of also just a Danish thing where everybody feels entitled to give you their opinion about pretty much anything?
Yeah, to be honest, I think so. I don't know. I've never been in other countries, and of course I don't know people as well in other countries, so people wouldn't give me advice like that. Right. But I think it's more, even if it's not said in a tone to do harm or to set back anyone or anything, but it's a very Danish thing just to feel free to comment on whatever you want. Sure. I didn't ask you, but so it's and sometimes, and I've gotten better. And now I say, like, I would say, well, I never stopped racing the 200 free, so I don't really know. And
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, because I just answer like that, because I don't really, like, what do you want me to say also? But
Right.
and I had good talks with Rege about this, because I've had this feeling for a long time too. And you're so right, she had this feeling like a lot. And people saying you need to take up your frequency in the 100 breaths, blah blah blah. And she's like, but that's not my technique. You can't. That's right. And it also very much not your business. So I think I struggle. I do struggle with that sometimes, and I think I could learn to just be very confident in my own stuff. But it's hard sometimes, those comments.
All right. Well, I guess one more question, and then I got some like lightning round questions for you that I like to do at the end, have a little bit more fun. What's your outlook now? You know, you're looking, you said you got Europeans in May once again. You're hoping to swim in the Olympics. So what do you think as you look forward to this summer? What's your mindset right now?
Well, first of all, I can't wait for taper to come leading into Europeans. That's just one thing.
Yeah.
I think going into the Olympics, I have this goal that I would really love to swim a semifinal. That would be really, really big for me, because it would give me, I think, sort of a good head start for me to go into the next Olympic cycle. Also, I think our relay 4x1 free is a very strong relay, and Denmark have never had as 4 so good 100 freestylers as we have right now. So I think that could be very strong, and I can't wait to put up a good race with the girls. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think I wouldn't. That's what I wish for, yeah, and what I'm working towards.
Well, I'm always cheering for you, SIgne. I follow, as you probably notice, I follow every single meet. I'm checking up on your results, and it's been really great to see you grow up and become, you know, a professional swimmer and kick so much butt in so many races. It's just really, really, really fun to watch. So I'm looking forward to being able to watch all of that as we look forward to the summer.
What do you think I can do?
Oh,
not ask you.
I actually feel really good. Given the point you just made, because I feel like most of what I've done in this conversation is actually tell you what you're doing well. I don't think I've actually offered any commentary on what you can fix. I'm actually trying to point out to you all the things that you're doing that make you successful. So I hope that fits into the right category of helpful commentary.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think I would love to. I think hearing you say that, like, I would love to see you swim for 3 or 4 more years. You know, I hope the Olympics is only 3 years away, the next one, because you just continue to improve. So what could you accomplish over that time period? Who knows, SIgne? Maybe you'll get those muscles and you'll change your mindset for the 50 free. You know,
yeah.
you'll turn into that person who's in the ready room who's like, "Oh, let's go."
Yeah.
People will be like, the younger swimmers, because I'm so intimidated by SIgne. It's just
yeah.
All right, maybe I can't picture it, but so here's some lightning round questions, and I'm making all of these up. Usually I write these ahead of time, but now I'm just making them up based off of our conversation. So you said, like, Femke Heemskerk was somebody that was a bit of an idol for you. Who else do you look up to in the sport of swimming?
Well, I look up to Pellegrini as well.
I love her swimming so much.
Yeah, I love her swimming too, and she's always so strong.
Yeah.
She's such a strong backhand, and I feel like that's the most powerful thing to have. And
Yeah.
I really strive to do that, and I strive to do that in my practice as well.
Yeah.
Her, and of course I look up to, I used to, or I still do look up to Rege a lot as well. Rege Müller,
Yeah.
she's always been my idol, and she's always, she helped me too, just in the couple of years where we trained together before she quit. She helped me a lot, and she gave me such good advice on how to make sure that you do it your way, but still the way that the coaches and all the specialists find the best way. So not like being, okay, I don't want to do any mornings because I'm not a morning person. That's not an option.
Right.
but being like, how do you make sure that you're in the process, and how do you make sure that you also feel like you make your own choices sometimes, and that you put yourself first, and that you make sure that you swim for yourself. Yeah. And that's something that I've learned these past couple of years too, that I used to want to make my coach proud, and I used to want to make my parents proud and my sister proud, and I of course I still want to make people proud, but most importantly I want to make myself proud.
Yeah.
It's, I think, a big step for me to make sure that swimming is my thing.
You've gotten to travel quite a bit more than some people, you know, to go to swim meets and stuff. So I asked this question: what is the first place you want to travel to for a non-swimming reason? Like, what's that out of Denmark? Because you got to leave Denmark for a vacation. You can't just spend all your time in Denmark. Anybody that's lived there, it is the most beautiful place in the world when the sun is shining, but sometimes the sun doesn't shine for a couple months. So like, what's that first place you want to go to, SIgne?
I think I really want to visit Greenland. It's still kind of within Denmark, actually. Right. But I really, for a long time, I've really wanted to visit Greenland so much. And I think I'm going to do it after the Olympics.
Wow. That's so cool. Yeah, I've always wanted to go there too. I can never...
It should be so incredibly beautiful. And I want to do these, you know, big, just long walks and all these adventures.
And see glaciers carving off into the ocean and like...
Everything.
Yeah.
Pet ice, polar bears.
Yeah, see some polar bears. Who would have thought? I do remember teasing you when you were swimming that we were going to do a training camp in Svalbard, and we'd have to shoot polar bears. This is a place in Norway that's, you know, above the Arctic Circle and just miserable, and you have to fend off polar bears at all times.
And during the winter, the sun won't rise. And during the summer, the sun won't set.
Yeah, perfect. So you just get a winter training camp and just, you know, just people can sleep and train all day. I think it sounds perfect. I don't know.
But also, don't get me wrong. I'd really love to sunbathe and be in the water and like just lay on the beach for 2 weeks straight, and I'll never get bored. I will never. I'm the laziest person on vacation if I have to be. I can do absolutely nothing, and it's a talent, I'll tell you. My sister,
yeah, seriously, it is a skill.
When are we gonna do something? And I'll be like, never. Hopefully. So I really want to visit Greenland, but I also love just maybe Spain, Italy. I love Italy.
I miss Italy. Yeah. Too much good food though. So
pizza.
All right. And then finally, turn it on its head. You asked me what advice I had for you, but obviously you haven't seen me coach for 6 years. What advice do you have for me? What coaching do you have for me?
I think, well, not only for you, but for all coaches.
Okay.
I would say, yeah. But I would say to make sure that the swimmers are included in the planning and just the everyday training. And it could be just asking how was it today? How did you like your technique? How did you feel? How was if they've had a bad practice, like what do you think we can do better so it won't repeat tomorrow or something like that? And if you ask swimmers, I think if you ask people, that sometimes at one point they'll say, thank you for good practice. I really enjoyed the program. Or like, I think we could do a bit more technique. I feel like my technique is a bit off. And then they'll, as they grow older, they'll be more aware of what works for them. But I think you could start early by just, even just putting out the plan, just saying, this is what we're going to do. Also, if they're in school, when I was in school, sometimes when we got the season plan, it would be such a chaos for me to think that, well, in February, I'm going to be away for 3 weeks. In March, I'm going to be away for 1 week, and just not really knowing how I'm going to fit it all together. But then making sure that they know what we're going to do. And just and then at some point, I think people will be more aware of what works for them. And I think that when you get aware of what works for you, that's really when you are going to do more of what works.
Yeah. Oh, without anyone having to ask you, right? Like you just sort of start doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, SIgne, it's been such a pleasure. I'm so glad for this excuse to get to talk to you and put this all together. As I said, good luck, and we'll be watching and cheering for you from here. All right.